Hello everyone, and welcome back to Fractal 101. My name is Alex. Thank you so much for watching this video. What we're talking about today, recording, and specifically reamping, with our Fractal Audio Axe-FX III. The Axe-FX III, with so many ins and outs and USB capabilities, makes reamping a breeze. So here we're going to talk about a few tips and tricks, things to consider, and different tactics we can use when reamping with this amazing unit. Let's dive right in. For this tutorial, I've created a rather simple preset. We have input 1, everything is at stock settings, a phaser with EVH settings, a clean Mesa Boogie amp running into a pair of Recto cabs from Mesa Boogie as well. We have a stereo chorus running in series with Eric Johnson-esque tone setup. We then split into parallel with a medium room reverb and a little bit of dual delay on the end, running straight to an output block. For this tutorial, I'm using a Paul Reed Smith SE Custom 24 Floyd, and we're going to be staying on the neck pickup and clean tones throughout. So now that we have all of our tones queued up for our session, it's time to create that session within our DAW. I personally use Pro Tools, but feel free to use your favorite digital audio workstation. Now that our session setup window is up, we have a few things to consider. Most notably, the sample rate. When using a Fractal audio device, whether it's the Axe-FX III, the FM9, or the FM3, you need to make sure that this is set to 48 kilohertz. You cannot use the device as an interface if you don't set it to this. So be warned. And make sure you do your due diligence, as I have been guilty of this before. We're going to name this Rec Reamp and create our session. Now that we have our clean slate, it's time to create some tracks. We're going to want stereo for any of our process signals and mono for any DIs that we record. We're going to name this Guitar A and Guitar A DI. The next thing you want to do is make sure that your ins and outs are set up adequately for your Axe-FX III. Setup window, ins and outs. You see that we have 8 outputs and 8 inputs. We are good to go. Now that we have all of that squared away, we want to make sure our ins and outs on our tracks are allocated appropriately. For Guitar A, our process signal, we're going to make sure that we are on input 1. And for Guitar A DI, we want to make sure we are in input 5. This is the DI setting. Now that we have everything allocated appropriately with our ins and outs, it's time to arm the tracks, mute the input monitoring so we don't hear any latency, and press record. And there you have it. For demonstrative purposes, we have over-exaggerated our waveforms a bit, so you can see there's far more level in our process signal than our DI. If they don't look the same, chances are you've done this correctly. You really want to make sure that you get this step right before you get cranking on your session, because you may record 2 DIs and just hear your process signal, but you may also record 2 processed signals and no DI, meaning you'll have no chance to reamp things later. Very important to get this crucial step correct from the outset. So now that we have our basic tracks recorded, it's time to hear our process signal and our clean DI. First, our process signal. So we know that worked. And our DI signal. Success. Now that we have all of this done, we can now get into reamping. What I've done here is set my output to output 7 and 8, or as I've allocated it, bus 5 and 6. So now we want to have this send into our Fractal unit back through the USB so that we can get the reamping process started. If you were to hit play now, you'll hear no sound. This is normal. We haven't yet set up the receiver end in our editor. So what we're going to do is go to the editor, and with the Axe-FX III, this is super brilliant, super simple. Input USB, straight into our chain. And we're done. As you can hear, the reverb tails are still there, so we weren't playing the recorded track above. Now, maybe you didn't like the tone that you used on that take, or you want to mix and match some options. You can now do that with reamping. It's brilliant. So, we are going to create a new playlist. I'm going to call this Dry. I'm going to hit press record. We're going to go in here. We're going to mute our delay, mute our reverb. So all we're going to hear is a clean, unprocessed signal through the amp and cab. Now that our clean, dry signal is laid down, we have further options for reamping. We could create one with just the chorus, just the phaser, chorus and phaser, with delay and reverb, whatever you would like to do. But now that we have this dry, processed amp signal set up, we could now route this and get our spatial effects all onto individual tracks so we can appropriately mix them in post. This is a great, invaluable tool when sending tracks to a mix engineer. Maybe you really have that delay dialed into the sweet spot, or your modulation is just something you can't part with. You could put these all on separate tracks, send all of them to the mix engineer so he's not putting his own plugins on this, and he can work with what you have and what you played to, because your authentic part, your authentic self, is what's going to translate most in a recording. So let's see how we can set that up. I've now set up some extra tracks for delay and reverb to be printed individually. We're sending our dry rhythm track that we just recorded to output 7 and 8. And I have created a reamping just for delay and just for reverb. We're going to go in, set up our USB. We can even turn the threshold of our gate off if we choose. When you're reamping spatial effects, especially, make sure that your mix knob is at 100%, you're running in series, and your level knob is down. You do not want 100% signal, especially on reverbs, because that will clip the top end and it will be an unusable track. So for our delay, we have 100% mix, negative 8.5 dB for our level, and on our reverb, 100% mix, negative 20 dB. So let's print our delay. We can take that level down a bit as we see the transience is a bit high. Now we're also going to record reverb independently. Now we can hear each of those individually and control them individually. So here is just the clean, unprocessed amp signal. Bringing in our delay. Mixing to taste. And now adding in our reverb. Now the sky's the limit with this reamping technology. Anything is possible, and you have all of the Fractal Audio System's capabilities at your fingertips within the Axe-FX III. This is going to be a lot of fun for your next recording session, whether you're in a studio, at a bandmate's house, or starting your next solo project. That about does it for this tutorial on recording and reamping for your Axe-FX III. If you enjoyed this video, there are plenty more videos throughout the channel that you can check out, whether they're other Fractal 101s, tutorials of tone, gear reviews, playthroughs, etc. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next time.